So this is some of the mini pots laying around my yard that I've been testing all kinds of different materials, trying to replicate ancient Mimbres pottery authentically using just clays and minerals from the Mimbres Valley or nearby. Different combinations, some of these as a clay body. These are all what I consider test pieces. You can see a lot of them are broken. They're just kind of laying around in my yard. But this is one of the ways that I've been trying to understand the success of ancient Mimbres pottery is by basically just making them. And then I look at them under a microscope after they're fired, either in a fire or in my test kiln, and see if there's resemblance to, it's not a high-powered microscope, it's a low-powered microscope, but I can see if there's resemblance in the way everything looks in my test piece or my test bowl compared to actual ancient Mimbres sherds that I have. But this is just probably half of the pile of pots I have laying around. And this is my test kiln. Basically what it is, it's an old electric kiln with all the electric parts gutted out of it. It's used with a propane weed burner to create the fire. And I like to have a long line, so my bottle's far away from the fire. That's my propane bottle, just a regular barbecue grill propane bottle. So let's take a look inside. I use this to cover it, to cover the flue, which is the chimney. Now you have to have an opening in these so that the gases can escape. But if I want to control reduction within the kiln, I can do two things. I can turn up the flame, turn up the gas on the control valve there, or I can close the flue a little bit to allow less oxygen into the burn, so that if I'm trying to simulate an actual fire, I'll start off with a low flame, letting everything inside the kiln heat up slowly until I get to about 600 degrees Fahrenheit. And that usually takes about maybe 15-20 minutes, kind of what you might consider a preheat. And then after that, knowing that all the moisture is probably evaporated out, burned off, then I'll go ahead and turn the flame up quite abruptly, almost as if you were starting a fire and you got all your logs on there and you got it going real hot and heavy. And with the fire going pretty strong, I'll close the flue a little bit like this at the beginning, and then maybe I'll close it even as much as halfway. And sometimes I'll even see flames kind of shooting up from here, knowing that there's very little oxygen in the kiln. So as it's going through the initial heating process, I know that it's going to be in probably full reduction, much like a very hot, fast burning fire. And then after a certain while, or after I reach a temperature of somewhere around 1300 degrees, 1400 degrees tops Fahrenheit, then I'll go ahead and start opening up the flue, letting more oxygen in, and I might even turn the flame up just a little, just to keep climbing in temperature. And then I just let it slowly go up to about, I've been firing to under 1500 degrees Fahrenheit on my test pieces. They say the maximum ancient pottery in the Southwest maximum temperature was probably about 1560 or 1550, but most of it was probably fired somewhere around 1480 to 1510, somewhere in that range, I'm assuming, I think. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is if I can get good solid pieces at around 1490, 1500 degrees Fahrenheit, then I feel pretty confident that whatever fire I build, when I go through the full test, that everything will work out. So that's how I do that. I'll go ahead and open that up and just kind of let the flames die down inside and let the piece get to a temperature where, as if the pot was maybe in hot coals and it's starting to get even hotter as the flames are going down. So now it's looking inside. The arrangement I have is the flames coming in through the bottom. I'll show you here in a minute. And then the flame will come up or lick up around this front part where you can see this lower part on your screen. The flames will kind of lick up in that direction. So if I want to test piece really close to the flame, I'll put it right on that edge. And if I don't want them quite getting that hot, then I'll put them back in the back. And that allows me to test the same material at a hot, more direct flame temperature than and I can take the same another test piece with the same material and put it in the back, and it'll get a little less flame. Now, mind you, in this situation, from what I've learned in reduction firing as a potter, that you might think that the reduction occurs right around the flame, but that's not always the case in a kiln environment. Sometimes the reduction can be stronger in the center where the flame is not. Just below the flue, which is the opening in the top of the kiln. But that's something else that you can kind of look into. But this is a good way to test materials to see if they're suitable to make a big pot out of or a small pot before you go through all the trouble of making a beautiful pot, trying out a new clay, see if it's going to work for you, and then be disappointed that you had too much temper or you had not enough temper or the clay itself just wasn't sufficient. So going back to the burner, what you need to do here if you're going to go this route, you need to open up an opening in the kiln big enough so that oxygen can come in along with the flame. You might think that you would want to put this all the way in there, but you don't. You want to have it about an inch away from the opening like that, so it can carry oxygen into the kiln. And as you can see from the shelf, the flame is actually going underneath the shelf inside the kiln, and then it's coming up, and then it's going out the top. So if you can kind of picture that. So of course, you control the burner here, but now as a disclaimer, I'm not encouraging anyone to do this because you have to really be cautious. You're playing with fire, you're playing with combustible materials. When I light my kiln, I pull this way back and I open the lid so that whatever gases are coming out of the thing will not get in the way, or you can even light it separate from the kiln altogether, but that's how I do it. And then after the flame is started, then I'll do this, and I never, ever, ever get it started with that top part closed. You've got to have an escape or you're liable to end up with an explosion in the kiln. So that's why I say, if you're going to go this route, just do it with caution. There's a lot of other people online that have good videos on how to use a raku kiln. This is very similar to a raku kiln. As a matter of fact, I do raku in this kiln. Okay, so here I live in a very windy environment. I live in the Mimbres Valley, where the Mimbres people thrived, but it's very dry and very windy a lot of the time. Today it's not, but mostly it's very windy. So this is ideal for me to test pieces without using an actual fire and get good results, even on a bad day. Yeah, and so here is the final place of my testing and firing. If things do good in the kiln and they handle thermal reactions the way I hope, then I come over here and I have a stack of mesquite wood that I burn, usually mesquite, because I live in the desert and we've got a lot of mesquite. And that's what I do to see that it holds up to the actual primitive firing process. And then when it does, I feel like I'm on the right track, whether it be my white slip that I'm using from different minerals here in the Southwest, or whether it be the clay body itself. The testing process in the gas kiln, I think, saves a lot of time, a lot of energy, and when you live in a dry, windy environment, it's just really hard to do all of your testing in an actual fire. So I hope this helps you. If you decide to do this, you can usually pick up an old beat up electric kiln from somebody who's got it in their garage from the 1990s or 2000s for nothing, or $50 or something like that, and a weed burner, and you're pretty much good to go. So, but anyway, I hope that helps.